Miles looked infuriated. Chuck, do you think I'm that easy to intimidate? Get them! The moment he finished, the people from the hallway crowded into the hotel room. Miles had more than 20 people versus Chase, Chuck, and his one other bodyguard. The hotel room was cramped. The tight confines were the only things keeping Chase and Chuck from being immediately overrun. Shouts of screams filled the room as Chuck and his comrade fought Miles' men. In moments, men were lying on the ground, groaning in pain. The fight paused as the thugs hesitated. Miles looked at the messy scene and screamed at Chuck with an ugly roar. There's no winning. I have an army compared to you. Chuck didn't even look at Miles and the others. He just respectfully stood beside Chase and asked in a soft voice, Mr. Rothman, this suit should connect to the one next door. You take your wife and leave matters here to us. Chase's brows rose when he heard that. If he held any mistrust on Chuck before, now his loyalty was cemented. Miles was clearly angry. He hadn't expected his rival to risk his safety for such an unassuming, disheveled man. The fire rose in his heart. You want to leave? None of you will be walking out of here today. Since you encroached on my territory, we'll sleep Lauderdale clean out of your little gang. Chuck kept Miles' attention while Chase picked up Celia and edged toward the door. If it came to a fight, Chuck and his men would succumb to the numbers. Seeing this, Jason, who had been scared witless, mustered his courage. He rushed towards Chase, who was carrying Celia all by himself. Now that everybody was looking at Miles, Chuck wouldn't be able to protect Chase from an attack from behind. Now was his opportunity to teach him a lesson. Jason swept his foot to kick Chase's legs out from under him. Where do you think you're going? Are you trying to escape now that the fun's begun? Chase stumbled to the side and stared hard at his rival. Jason had no doubt that Chase would beat him senseless, given the chance. He was so shocked that he didn't dare make another move. Seeing this, Miles laughed derisively. Mr. Young, is that trash scaring you? At that moment, Chuck darted forward and punched Jason in the jaw. The man fell backward onto the hotel bed. However, Chuck couldn't vent his anger on Jason, or Miles' men would move in and overwhelm him. Jason sat up and cursed with a pained voice. This piece of trash! How could I be afraid of him? He needs other people to do his fighting for him. Miles laughed out loud. He looked at nearly everyone as if he was looking at bugs. Mr. Dennis Young is a powerful man. The same can't be said for his nephew. Tell me, do you want me to deal with this loser, or do you want to take him yourself? Jason rubbed his jaw and abandoned his pride. Get him! Chase felt calmer than he had expected. His face remained even. Are you stupid? Miles was still pushing through his men toward Chase. Or do you know you're beaten and you've given up resisting? Chase's face remained stoic. At Miles' words, he suddenly chuckled and said indifferently, I'm just thinking about how I used to be scared of guys like you. All three of them, Miles, Jason, and Dennis, laughed as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. You still think you can win? You're talking nonsense, and if you're not scared, you're just crazy. Jason sneered. As for Miles, he grinned and said, Man, before you speak, think really hard about this. The only thing that's gonna get you out of here alive is my goodwill. So what'll it be? Dennis's heart was impatient. He didn't want this standoff to go on any longer. With Celia's body still in the room, he had unspeakable plans. Miles, stop spouting nonsense and throw them out. If you got business with these guys, finish it outside, but leave the woman here. Yes, sir, Miles told him. He clenched his fist and walked towards Chase with murderous intent. On the receiving end of the stare, Chase was still unfazed. He didn't even look at Miles. He quietly took out his cell phone and said into it, Mr. Zimmerman, do you hear what your son-in-law has been saying? What? Everyone was stunned, especially Miles, who wanted to throw some punches. When he saw Chase take out his phone, he hesitated. "Who are you talking to?" When Dennis heard these words, son-in-law and Mr. Zimmerman, he already knew. Without a word, Chase turned on his phone speaker and handed it to Dennis. "Bastard!" The roar came from the other side. "How dare you take advantage of your position, the position I put you in, and use other people's needs for your own sick games? You're a fucking disgrace to your profession and your family name." The voice was rather hoarse from shouting, and in it carried an unarguable power. The voice was all too familiar to Dennis. It was his father-in-law. Suddenly he felt very sick. "This is all a misunderstanding." His voice began to tremble. "Shut up. You're not my son-in-law. Not anymore. You're done." Roland was still fuming. "No, You don't understand. If you just let me explain." Dennis looked at Chase and saw that he would be unmerciful. Dennis's life was about to get extremely difficult. Roland was so angry that he started laughing. "I'm telling you, if you've angered Mr. Rothman or his wife, I will personally make sure nobody ever hears from you again." "What? Who? Why?" His voice continued to tremble, and he looked at Chase, scared speechless. "Quiet!" Roland ordered harshly from the other end of the phone. Almost reflexively, Dennis hung his head and looked at the ground, and at the same time, Jason, who was standing beside him, mirrored the action. Between the wine, the action, and the phone call, they were both in a complete daze. What kind of reversal is this? Nobody's above me, Dennis thought. Nobody except my father-in-law. He felt like an ant at the moment. At least Jason was below him. Dennis took preserved pride in not being the lowliest person. "Apologize immediately." Roland's words stabbed into their hearts. "Otherwise, the Zimmerman family will disown you, and you'll never practice medicine again." At this moment, Dennis was extremely scared. He hadn't expected his indiscretions tonight would come back on him so quickly. At least half of his life had been carefree thanks to his influence. Wherever he went, people would address him as Mr. Young or Dr. Young. However, it was now clear that all of this was thanks to the Zimmerman family. With support from them, he had been able to rise to the top. Without them, he was nothing. If he was disowned from the family, his own prestige would disappear. What would he do if every hospital in the entire country stopped working for him? Knowing the seriousness of the situation, Dennis didn't dare to ask who Chase was or why he would simply call the Zimmermans. There was only one thought in his mind. He had made a terrible mistake offending the Rothmans. He raised his head and looked at Chase regretfully. "Mr. Rothman, I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to take advantage of your wife. I'm sorry, I'm an animal. Please, don't let my in-laws disown me. Please forgive me." Dennis, who was in his late 40s or early 50s, was crying so much that tears were dropping off of his cheeks. But Chase's heart did not waver. He looked down at Dennis and said coldly, "Mr. Young, do you know what your biggest mistake was?" "Huh?" He looked up, sweat dripping from his forehead. Chase enunciated each word clearly. "You shouldn't have touched my wife. If you attacked me, maybe we could have negotiated. But you laid a hand on her. That's unforgivable." Chase punched Dennis into the stomach, knocking him to the ground. Next, he aimed between his legs and kicked hard. He was ferocious, giving no mercy. Dennis squealed like a pig being butchered, the sound echoing through the entire hall. A few of the guests in the other room overheard and came out. However, everyone saw that there were so many tough-looking people in the corridor, so nobody asked too many questions. Dennis curled up on the floor, moaning miserably. Chase's ferocity scared the hell out of Jason and Miles, and they didn't dare say a single word. Jason didn't want the attention to be drawn out of his role, and Miles was just a third-rate punk. In their eyes, Roland Zimmerman was the real deal, the real power, and his influence set Chase above everyone else. Chase's eyes fell on Jason, who trembled and begged for mercy. "Mr. Rothman, you and I know each other. Can we work something out?" Chase didn't say anything this time. He walked over to where Celia laid and picked her up from the floor.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.